I'm Matt Jasinski with Motor Trend here in South Africa with the 2025 Defender. But this isn't just any Defender, this is the Defender OCTA, the most capable and most powerful Defender that Land Rover's ever come out with. And this is the prime location because both the brand and this vehicle have a rich history in proving its off-road excellence. But one of the things we love about the Defender is its ability to be a mild-mannered, engaging vehicle to drive on the road. Now you might be looking at this one, you see all this off-road gear, all this recovery equipment, the spare tires, the winch, the wider fenders, the aggressive tires. So is it still the same Defender we know and love? Maybe it's better. One of the things we see with off-road vehicles is there's usually a compromise. You're giving something up, whether it's ride comfort or load capacity. But the OCTA here might be the one vehicle out there that is no compromise. It actually has a higher payload capacity than the standard Defender in addition to its off-road capability. What we've yet to test is how does it do on the road? Does all this off-road equipment change its manners? It has a completely different suspension, it has different tires. It might look the same, and we love that about it. It's very unassuming. It doesn't have graphics and badges all over it. In fact, the badging is very subtle. But how does it do on the road? Well, we're gonna take you through the country and we're gonna find out. One thing we've always loved about the Defender is its exceptional ride and handling on the road. Its mix of on-road and off-road capability is really unique and stagnant. With most off-roaders, there's usually some kind of compromise, and with the hardcore off-roaders, we have even more compromise. When we look at trucks like the Ford Raptor or the Ram TRX, those are trucks with lowered load capacities. They have worse ride and handling, although they do have exceptional off-road capability, but it makes them less enjoyable to drive every day. But with the OCTA here, we really don't have any compromise, and as hard as that is to believe, it's true. Its on-road manners are as good as the Defender's always been. In fact, driving it really doesn't feel that different than any other standard Defender. Sure, you've got the torque of the most powerful V8 that Land Rover's ever put in a Defender, and it does have a wider track and it has a lot of chassis improvements, but those things only add to the driving experience of the Defender. Despite its enhanced off-road capability, it has a higher load capacity. So because it's designed to go off-road, take bigger excursions, and take you further and farther, you don't lose the ability to take more gear with you.
Diving deeper into what's underneath the Defender OCTA, it's a completely different beast again. Beefier components are mounted with a different geometry. It's still an air-sprung, independent, multi-link setup at each corner, but the air springs are hydraulically linked in place of an anti-roll bar. Wheel articulation has been one of the few weak points of the Defender when it comes to its off-road capability, but the new system can decouple each wheel independently in real time. Having to rock crawl in and out of our stay at Bushman's Kloof Wilderness Reserve, we loved the active nature of the system, and we avoided having to fiddle around with anti-roll bar disconnects that can be notoriously slow and hard to engage or disengage depending on the wheel position and vehicle position. Triple valve, continuously variable, semi-active dampers round out the new 60 dynamic suspension system with separate comfort, jounce, and rebound valves working to keep our Defender steady through many of the washboarded gravel roads we encountered.
One of the ways Defender made sure that the OCTA had the off-road capability and on-road handling and ride that they were hoping for was by putting it through a full off-road durability and on-road performance durability, part of which included laps around the Nürburgring. To the best of Defender's knowledge, this is the first vehicle that's done that. Typically with a targeted vehicle like this, you would see an emphasis on the off-road durability. Sure, there's standard tests you do for on-road and regulations, but you don't usually go through the effort of designing something for extreme off-road capability and then going and putting it around a racetrack. That's one of the factors that truly makes the Defender unique. We're so impressed with how the OCTA has delivered in what Defender claims it should that it's crazy to think it almost didn't even exist. Internally, there seemed to be more push for an SVO type vehicle, more on-road performance focused, but that's not really the Defender. The Defender design team stayed true to the heart. It's that off-road capability. As time has proliferated the adoption of electronic steering racks, so many vehicles just seem to get more and more numb. There's very little steering feel and very little connection to the road. Now, the Defender hasn't suffered that exactly, but it still just feels like a modern vehicle. Whether it's the sticky off-road tires or the wider track, the Defender has a great feel on the road. The steering ratio has been made quite a bit quicker, so it does feel more responsive and it does feel more sporty. And combined with the big wheel, I've always loved this big steering wheel. Cruising through the sand dunes, that quicker ratio was really, really noticeable. The wheel was easy to turn around, and you could really feel when you were losing traction in the sand. And when you're driving in things like sand, that's really what's important. But despite all the assist, you really had a great feel for it. Now, when we really lay into the throttle, we can hear a little bit of the engine. In fact, we can hear it to a satisfactory extent. It's got a sound that competes with the best of V8s. Personally, I've always loved that classic NASCAR V8 sound, and honestly, the Defender is right up there with them. Could be a little bit louder though. When you are cruising, it is pretty quiet, it is pretty subdued. Maybe there's people out there that get tired of hearing a V8, but we've got to imagine that if you're buying this vehicle, you want to hear the V8. With an active exhaust, you could probably get a little bit more noise out of it, and we know that Defender is routing some of the exhaust artificially into the cabin. So there's room to tweak it there a little bit. Defender tells us that they're abiding by mostly the European sound standards for the exhaust, but we would like to see a little bit more noise inside the cabin, and that wouldn't change anything that's happening outside the cabin or change any of its pass-by sliding forward. So if you're using this net or not, you can take this off, stack things up, and this gives you a little bit of protection, but it doesn't block your view. So these are standard accessories, but this is the first time we've really got to put them through the test here, and they definitely came in handy. There's so much to love about the Defender. Here is this incredible 4.4 liter V8. It is the most powerful V8 that Land Rover has put in a Defender. It's got 626 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque. It is a mild hybrid with an electric motor in there, and what that did is that's going to help smooth out the shifts. It helps avoid any turbo lag, and when we were crawling on the rocks, it helped avoid any of that torque converter slip. So the throttle response was absolutely fantastic in this vehicle here. Very little rollback effort. This thing just goes. Point it where you want it and hit the gas. It's twin turbo. You can see each intake on each side, and incredibly, there's not a lot in here. There's not a lot of dirt, not a lot of dust. These vehicles were perfectly clean when we got them, and frankly, they're still not all that dirty. So the engine is getting plenty of clean air. This is probably one of the harder parts to clean in a vehicle, and a lot of people don't think about it, but it's not really something you're gonna have to think about a lot here. Over time, it'll accumulate, but that'll happen with any vehicle. And then here on the fenders, we've got some more of that chopped carbon, and it's a great accent to the contours of this hood, and it just makes really cool looking vehicle. Absolutely love this thing. It's been a complete joy to have here. After a few days traversing South Africa here in the Defender OCTA, we can truly say that this is a no compromise off-road vehicle. I've never been in a vehicle that handles so well off-road and on-road. A lot of the off-road trucks out there, the very extreme ones, they do okay on the road, but you still give something up. And Defender has really knocked it out of the park with this one. Although it looks very similar, aside from the wider fenders and subtleties of the standard Defender, it's a completely different truck, and yet it has the same personality of the standard Defender. It has everything we love, and we had no issues with it off-road. It did everything we wanted it to do, and it was a complete joy to drive on the road, even with these really extreme off-road tires. So if you're a Defender fan, this is the ultimate. This is the one that you should strive for. We encourage anybody who's interested in it to check this one out. For more on the Defender OCTA, for more in-depth specs, check out motortrend.com.